You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for your successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast. Today I wanted to discuss with you a concept that I have been kind of vaguely thinking about and putting more form to it over the last couple of years. The area that it has relevance is for people who are feeling like they don't have enough control over their life, or they're not as happy as they think they could be in life. And when I say in life, I mean both in our personal lives, but also our lives at the dental practices that we work in as well. And I think we can all identify what a happy life would look like. But the gap between it and where we are right now seems huge and insurmountable. And how on earth can we get all the way over there? And so just like our dental practice goals, for example, I'm helping one of our clients at the moment achieve a particular financial goal, which is quite different to where they are right now. And with all of these sort of projects, you recognize where you are now, where you want to be, and what changes you need to put in place to get there. And then you break that down into monthly and weekly and even hourly goals for the dental practice itself and the practitioners within it, because we understand that the gap can be huge. We understand that the step is enormous. We understand that trying to get somewhere in a year's time compared to where we are right now, we can't delay and start taking action in October and have it be massive action in October. It needs to be something that we incrementally achieve over a series of weeks, months, years. And our own happiness in life is much the same. I think sometimes we can have that feeling, we're not examining this feeling, but we do have this feeling that, or these thoughts that if in order for me to be happy, I need to discover the thing that kind of transforms me in a short period of time, whether it be an hour, a day, or a week. All of a sudden, I'm a happy human being now. And when Socrates said, that the unexamined life is not worth living. And so quite often we have these thoughts and feelings, we don't examine them. We don't go deeper than that. We just recognize that, this is just the way life is. But when we examine our processes, when we examine our life, we can start finding opportunities for creating that shift and change, and therefore enjoying a better version of life, a happier version, more peaceful version of life. So one of the concepts that kind of helps feed into this as well is the concept that a lot of self-awareness gurus use as their basis, and many of you will recognize this process, that initially when we have a look at anybody's life or a situation and our response to it, and whether that be something that we consider happiness or distress or problematic or life is unfair, is we recognize that there is the way we feel about it, the way it's actually ended up impacting our life. That is the area of control that we have. That the situation, the circumstance that triggered how we eventually feel about it and how it eventually has an impact on our life, it's only the circumstance or situation that we can't change. Everything after that fact, we can change. So we can change the thoughts that we have about that circumstance, which then impacts the feelings that we have about that impact, which then controls the actions that we take in response to that circumstance. And the ending result is how we feel about that, how it ends up having a role to play in our lives. So to give you an example to understand what I'm saying, because I'm possibly all over the shop, we have the circumstance of being mugged in the street. Terrible thing to happen, being mugged in the street. The thoughts that we could have about being mugged in the street is, oh, why was I victimized? Oh, I must be so weak, I was mugged. Oh, I must have had a target on my back in some way. This is a traumatic thing that's just happened. I'm going to need to get over this now. This is I've been a victim of crime. Having those thoughts, the feelings you'd end up having in response to that circumstance of being mugged are fear, anxiety, possibly leading to things more serious than anxiety. And these feelings can then continue on, because if the thoughts that we're having are all identity thoughts, such as I'm a victim and I've been a victim of crime and I must be weak to have allowed this to happen, or to have someone perceive me as, this is going to be my next target, then those thoughts are going to lead to feelings that could then be identifying feelings. I've now become an anxious person because of this thing that ended up happening to me. Because I was mugged a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, I feel anxious when I walk down the street. And with all of those feelings, then we have particular actions. And so if we have the feeling of I've just been victimized, I've been a victim of crime, and the feelings that we have about that, the actions that we take could be we start being more homebound. Another action that we could take would be to start changing the way we approach our everyday so we remain safe. We may also have the actions of telling other people about it, reinforcing the same thoughts and feelings that we attach to the circumstance. And so then eventually the resulting impact it has on our life is that, gosh, that was the fork in the road that I started becoming an anxious person. I started living my life differently. And you could say then that the result would be that I'm a less happy person now. I'm a less peaceful person now because of the thing that happened. On the flip side of that, same circumstance, been mugged in the street. What if the thought was, this person randomly picked me, not because of anything about who I was, not because I was weak or anything like that, just because criminals randomly pick people out. It was a complete random attack. It doesn't mean it's ever going to happen again. It hasn't happened up until that point. That was the first time I was ever mugged. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. You could also have the thought of, gosh, I was walking through a particularly dangerous area. I hold some level of responsibility in that. If you were walking in a bad area at 2 o'clock in the morning, I have some sense of responsibility over that. Another thought you could have could be, gosh, I was mugged today. Thank God I wasn't injured. Thank God I wasn't killed. Thank God all they did was take my handbag, my wallet. Having those sort of thoughts around that circumstance would then lead to a different range of feelings. Feelings of anxiety around the thing that happened. Now you've got feelings of gratitude that that's all that happened. It could have been so much worse. Having thoughts of, this is just a random thing. It wasn't personal. Then the feelings around that are going to be different than that person targeted me because I'm weak, because of something about me. Now the feelings are going to be, and where the feelings would then be more of a victim mentality, more victim feelings. Now the feelings are going to be, these sort of things just happened, and so I feel calmer about that. I don't feel victimized from it. And then the actions could be quite different. You recognize it's a singular, isolated incident that has now happened in your past, and it can remain in your past, in your memory, without having it affect the way you live your life. You may have, going back to the thought again, you may have the thought of, yes, this happened, but it's not going to make me live my life differently. So it makes you feel more in control, and the actions you take are going to be, bugger that what just happened. I am still going to get up in the morning and do my exercise and go to work every day and then walk home from work every day, and that's not going to change because I will not allow it to make me change that part of my life. And so then the resulting impact that mugging has on you as a human being for the rest of your life is not a fork in the road, a turning point where everything started to go badly. It's something that happened in the past, just like crime happens to all sorts of people for no particular reason towards them. And so the result is that it was an isolated incident that really didn't have an impact on my life. If anything, I have more control over my life because I made that decision that bugger what happens around me, I'm the one that controls what I do in my life. I'm the one that controls the habits that I have in my life. So it may have made you think to yourself, well, that's one of those many events that happens in the past that makes you stronger. And so I've lived my life in a more strong way from that point forward. And so there is always that awareness that it's not the circumstance that directs how we feel about our life and what kind of life we end up having, whether it be happy, peaceful, sad, traumatic. It's the thoughts that we have about it that are different. Look at Nelson Mandela spending 27 years in prison. And yet he had the thoughts of, they can control my body, but they can't control my mind. In my mind, he said in his book, I was always a free man. And there are so many examples that two different people will have the same type of situation occur, the same type of circumstance occur, yet the impact on their life are at polar opposites. So the circumstances in our life, recognizing that we can't always change that, but we can change the thoughts that we have about it, which will then trigger different feelings within us, which then have us come up with different actions to take. And it's the actions that we take that ends up the impact on our life and what our life looks like. So recognizing that concept and the concept that it takes time to create meaningful change in your life, I've come up with the process of getting your house in order. Now, getting your house in order is normally a term that is applied to getting your finances in order. Everything's a bit chaotic, just getting your house in order, getting everything under control in that space. But I have attributed the getting your house in order to a process of incremental change that you can make in your life to slowly start gaining more and more control in your world and more peace, love, happiness, whatever feeling you want to have from your experience of life. Now, you can even consider, if you came across a house that was a little bit chaotic, run down, damaged, we've got plumbing problems in one area, we've got structural problems in another area, that renovating a whole house, that is a big, big project, and it's a lot to think about and a lot to manage. However, if I was instead going to come to you and say, let's just look at the bathroom for now. Let's just renovate the bathroom for now. You would feel like, oh, that's more achievable. I can both afford it and emotionally manage the process of getting that thing done rather than think of getting this whole house organized and renovated. So the process of getting your house in order is recognizing how we're showing up to each individual room of our house and recognizing that we've got control over that. If you can imagine, home life is stressful. Maybe you've got rebellious teenagers, maybe you've got money troubles, maybe you've got little children and it's chaotic when you come home of an evening after work. And so as you are coming through the front door of your home, you are anticipating all the negative thoughts and feelings and actions that are going to be taking place on the other side of the front door. And that is going to help dictate what kind of energy you have about coming in. Like, you think, oh, it should be so much easier just to be at work for a little bit longer rather than face this chaos again. And it's when we feel like all these things are out of our control that we feel victim to the family life. We feel victim to the way we are in that home. I can only be more peaceful and happy when the stuff, the situation, the circumstances that's going on inside the home, when that changes. However, as we've identified, that's the thing we can't change. So therefore, waiting for it to change to be happy, that's what leads to a life of, gosh, it's been years now that I have felt unhappiness, and I don't know how to shift and change that now. And we want to get away from that victim space, because the minute we feel victim to our circumstance, we stop thinking of ways out of it. We stop thinking of alternative ways of managing it. We also don't feel like we have enough power in our own lives to activate any positive change. And so then we feel we're unhappy, we're stressed, we're tired, we're this, we're that, all these negative feelings, and we can't do anything about it. It's just my lot that I have to live right now. And it's a helpful thing to think that is just not the case. So, taking the front entrance of walking into your home as the initial example, think to yourself, what is the current reality? Sometimes just recognize what's actually going on gives you a far greater sense of what's actually going on. We have these thoughts that aren't examined, that we don't contemplate on, that we don't truly recognize. So therefore, we're not totally aware of it. And so we just know that we're feeling bad, we're feeling cranky, we're feeling moody. But think about what the current reality is. When I am walking up to my front door, my current reality is avoidance. I try to avoid walking through the front door. Anticipation of negative. I'm anticipating that it's going to be chaotic on the other side, and I've got hours ahead of me of this chaos. So that's my current reality when I walk into the front door. What's my desired outcome? My desired outcome when I walk through the front door is that I feel relieved that I'm home. So that I step into a house that makes me feel grateful for my family, grateful for my home, grateful for my situation in life, that I can relax and regenerate from working life, that I have many things that are fulfilling and satisfying on the other side of that door. What I want to feel when I come into the home is happiness, peacefulness, anticipating good things rather than all the negative things. Now that can normally seem easy enough to do, what's currently going on and what do I want my outcome to be. However, it's identifying the journey, the pathway to getting to that desired outcome that can be the thing that we just don't contemplate on, we don't think about, and so we get a little bit stuck. And so I have developed this Get Your House in Order framework with a download that there is an attachment link in the show notes, so you can complete this yourself if you are intrigued to see whether this is of any assistance to you. And what it helps us understand is that when I walk through the house, when I enter into my living room, when I enter into my backyard, when I enter into my kitchen, what mood am I in when I get into that space? And then what are my actions? What am I doing when I'm in that room? And then what am I thinking about when I am moving through those actions when I'm in that room? And then what is the resulting feeling that I have about it? And so I'll provide you another example. This is the example that's listed on the download. I'm going to look at the living room. The mood that I have when I come into this living room is I'm tired. And the things that I'm going into the living room to do, the actions that I'm taking is watching television. And the thoughts that I'm thinking is nothing much. I just want that to be downtime. I don't want to be thinking about too much. But you do have this underlying thought that, gosh, other people, I'm sure, use their time in this room more effectively than I do. Maybe I should be doing something more useful than just slumping in front of the television. But I'm just so tired. It's all I can do. And the feeling that I have after being in that room is a little disappointed, because I feel like there should be more. There should be more energy. There should be more excitement. There should be other more useful things I'm doing. So I'm feeling a little bit disappointed. Now, getting to the desired outcome, let's step through the desired outcome in terms of mood, doing, thinking, and feeling. The desired outcome is excited to spend time doing anything I choose. That's a different thought to have in that room. Anything I choose. I'm excited to be in there rather than tired. In terms of the actions that I take, rather than watching television, what different actions could I take? I could be reading. I could be having friends over. I could be watching educational, enlightening, and inspiring programs on television instead. So if watching television is helping me think and feel a certain negative way, then what else could I be doing in that room that would instead have me feeling differently, something more positive? Because now the thoughts that I have about being in the room when I'm reading, having friends over, watching educational, enlightening, inspiring programs, is I'm now thinking of all sorts of things. I'm thinking about the books and the ideas that they have and the ideas that I have read that have me thinking different ways about situations and people and life and things. I'm thinking about the conversations with friends and the insightful things I'm watching on television, and I'm getting a different perspective about life. I'm thinking different thoughts that I had when I first walked into the room. I'm starting to think that life is interesting. And so now the feeling that I have when I start having those sort of actions in the living room every day, now when I enter into the room, I'm feeling excited. And after I spend time in that room, I feel elated. That I'm taking more out of life than what I was before. That I'm finding meaning in that room more so than ever before. And so then to identify the new actions to take to make sure we start having that experience in the room rather than the traditional experience in the room. And so if I wanted to put the living room example into action, I would set my current favourite book beside the chair I would like to read in, have it already sitting there, so when I walk into the room, I go straight to the chair and start taking that new action. I'm also going to make sure I scroll through and select a few documentaries that are going to be really interesting to watch. So they're in the library of my television unit. So when I go in there, turn the television straight away, I've actually got the option to go for more educational, enlightening, insightful programs instead. I'm actually going to make the effort of once a week inviting my sibling over for a visit, or a neighbour in for a visit, or a friend in for a visit. I'm going to do that every week now. So they're the actions I'm going to be taking. And it's the new actions that you identify, that's where the shift is. And so recognizing the actions to take just to shift how we feel in the living room helps us be aware of, gosh, this does need to be an incremental thing. Because transforming the whole house or transforming your whole life is taking on board way too many actions, probably unrealistic goals to reach, and therefore we abandon the journey. It is the incremental shift to actions, the incremental improvement of our life that allows us to be on that constant and never-ending improvement process journey, that we are evolving, constantly evolving into this more happy life. So if you feel like your life generally and our home life can be a very big influencer of our life generally, if you feel like I should be getting a greater sense of joy, happiness, peace out of my life, then getting your house in order might be a useful process for you. How you enter into your home, how you enter into your living room, how you enter into your kitchen, the thoughts that you have, the feelings that you have, the actions that you're taking. What can you do if you, instead of going by Groundhog Day habit every day, if you want to have a different result, then what can you do in the meantime to try to trigger that different result? And the download will certainly help you keep track of your thoughts around each of these areas. So there's going to be a link to Getting Your House in Order download, and also an article that I wrote and was published in the Australasian Dental Practice magazine quite some time ago, that will help you get this process activated in your life. And when we relate this now to the dental practice situation, we can also see we've got control in that space as well. So how do we turn up to work every day? How do we enter into the morning huddle? What thoughts are we having? What actions are we taking in the morning huddle? What's the feeling that we have when we walk away from it? When we go into staff meetings, what's the energy we're bringing into staff meetings? What are the resulting thinking and thoughts and feelings that we're having from staff meetings, and what is a more desirable outcome, and so therefore what needs to shift and change within those staff meetings. Our interactions with patients, our interactions with difficult, challenging patients who we don't always love seeing but we need to see. What could we be doing differently in order to achieve a happier outcome for us? For dental practice owners and dental practice managers, the journey can be very stressful. You can feel like there's a lot going on all the time, and there's always problems to solve and new problems coming onto your plate. The to-do list gets longer and longer and longer all the time. And just like the mugging story earlier, we can feel victimized by all of that. Or we can have different thoughts around all of that. More empowering thoughts. We can recognize we have far more control if we choose to claim it over our life than when we are feeling victimized. And when we feel a sense of control over our life, that's where things start to shift and change. When we have complete control, a perception of complete control over our life, not the situations that happen, but our response to it, we're taking a far higher level of responsibility over our role in the eventual outcomes, thoughts, feelings, outcomes of anything that happens. And that's where we can start achieving greater levels of happiness, joy, peace. So I'll leave you with a quote by the legendary Jim Rohn. Your life does not get better by chance. It gets better by change. I hope this has been a helpful episode. Contact me if you would like any further assistance or support in this Getting Your House in Order process. And I encourage you to choose to have a happy day. Bye. If you enjoyed this podcast, then I encourage you to head over to Amina and my website, dentalbusinessmastery.com.au. You will find all the information that you need if you would like to gain our assistance in helping you and your team achieve great success. We've got online courses, consulting programs, the club membership. We also have a whole bunch of tools and resources that are available for free that will help you achieve your practice goals. If you would like to find out more, you can also email us directly at info@dentalbusinessmastery.com.au. Thanks so much for listening.